You predicted in 2016 in July that Donald Trump was going to win. No one, the polls, no one really thought that was a real possibility. You predicted with confidence based on your theories of the world. Tell us who's going to win the 2024 United States presidential election.
I think, well, according to the drawing, it's pretty obvious that.
Today, I'm honored to welcome Dr. Adrian Bejan, one of the most influential thinkers of our time. A professor of mechanical engineering at Duke University, Dr. Bejan is the creator of Constructal law. His profound ideas describe how systems, including rivers, trees, and air currents, search for freedom, access, and flow in the same way that human beings and human systems do.
As the name Thermodynamics suggests, the science is about heating, and dynamis means power or force. It's about heating and then movement, setting something in motion because of the fire in the belly. You see, hint, it's not only about the locomotive, it's about the animal.
This profound work extends beyond thermodynamics into human institutions to help us better understand complex systems and fundamental truths about what it means to be free, to have access, and to flow like nature does.
I grew up on the street, okay, in Romania. Even under communism, 100% freedom, on the street.
Really? What do you mean?
And if people had a recording of what I was saying in the 50s, it's true. But that's what I mean by freedom.
This two-time national champion is the 2024 recipient of the prestigious AMSE Medal. This over 100-year-old medal is the highest honor of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Previous winners include Willis Carrier, creator of the air conditioner, and the genius engineer Igor Sikorsky, creator of the first helicopter. We are so grateful to welcome Dr. Adrian Bejan to National Champion Radio.
Thank you, Andre.
That was quite a loud intro and then very chill response.
That's okay. What matters is the content and the fun, and the fact that you probably get the idea that if we speak freely, new ideas pop up. This is called the phenomenon of unexpected encounters and then unexpected connections. A connection between something you said and something that was probably waiting to come out of me. You see, because we're getting recorded, I have to be careful with my jokes. Okay,
like I said, you'll have a copy of it before it goes live.
I have several whipping boys. When things go wrong, I pull them out of the bag, and I play these jokes on when I teach class. Andre, they don't get them. They don't get them. I don't know where they grew up. They probably grew up in a church somewhere where they're afraid to laugh.
Some weird version of a modern church, though, right? It's strange
I
times.
don't know. I grew up on the street, okay, and that was even under communism, 100% freedom, on the street.
Really? What do you mean? I mean, 100% freedom on the streets in communism?
On the street, yeah. On the street, you're with your friends. You're all of them hoodlums, and we're obeying the law, mind you, but we're free and telling all sorts of things, jokes, of course, friendly insults, poking fun at each other, boxing and kicking the ball and all these things. Girls, always a topic.
Naturally.
Yeah, normal. We grew up normal, okay?
That was, same here. I mean, I grew up in Detroit or outside of, in and around it, and we were on the street. I mean, maybe it's something to do with talking about recording, right? They grew up in an era of everybody recording everything, people getting canceled for things they said in middle school on the way to college. Oh my God, what did they say? Like, doesn't that sound like classic Russia or something?
Yeah, exactly, Andre. If people had a recording of what I was saying in the 50s, it's true. But that's what I mean by freedom.
Yeah.
Even though the regime was a totalitarian regime,
Hmm.
um, but that's a different kind of layer of organization. But on the street, by the way, there are no cars, no cars, no
Why? I
cars.
mean, it was 1950. Cars have been out for a little
1950,
while,
yeah.
about a half
Hey,
century or
I got
so.
news for you. No traffic lights. They have not been
Yeah.
invented yet in Romania.
Mm,
No traffic
mm.
lights, no cars, a few street buggies, and so
Street
it's
buggies? What were
yes,
they?
yes, yeah,
Horse and
yeah,
carriage
as
horse?
if I have experienced your life in the 1800s,
Mm,
1800s,
mm-hmm,
with the Amish. I I come from that, uh, and of course, in my time things changed rapidly. In the 60s, we had the traffic lights and cars and all sorts of things, but uh, very, very sparse, very low
mm.
density. Um, Trains operated, that was the main mode of transportation. Um, and then aviation began to appear. Uh, Very few people had access to that. I did because I was a basketball player, so we had to play away games at the other end of the country. Um, yes, that's right.
Yeah?
Hey, you probably don't know. I was a somebody when I was
Yeah, I know. You know,
when
they don't know. I know. You
yeah,
know, I know. I saw your
yeah,
Morgan Freeman video.
from from
We've
from from the street, and this is a serious point. From the street, channels of access did exist. In this case, athletics, um, and um, and a very clean life, a very clean program, way of behavior, and the whole generation. My best friends, my closest and only friends in Romania these days are my former teammates and adversaries, all raised by the same culture. It was, by today's standards, a developing country, not a developed one. Today it is developed, but back then it was stepping out of a peasant society. That's what Eastern Europe was, a peasant society, uh, all the way after the Second War.
before we hop too far away, we can't go too far without showing a great basketball player.
Before Adrian Bejan became a professor of engineering at Duke University, he had a very
There he
different career.
is.
Adrian was a basketball star in Romania.
I was a player under the communist system. Basketball is not communism. Even under communism, basketball was played correctly. The greatest single lesson from growing up in basketball was the idea that the ball flows through channels. The channels are not rigid. They are constantly morphing.
Just as Adrian the athlete saw basketball as the flow of a ball across the court, Adrian the engineer now studies that flow. He thinks it may be the key to understanding the design of the universe.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I'll say if people want to watch the rest of that, we'll have a link to it that you can go and finish getting that amazing narration by Morgan Freeman, an explanation by Dr. Bejan on the relationship between basketball and the flow of life in a large sense. But it's not a game. It's for real. It's the real deal. You saw him there. Those weren't edited jump shots. He made all of those shots. A
I,
real legend athlete right there. So I just had to take a moment to put that on display.
I'm so impressed that you decided to show this. Uh, in South Africa, Morgan Freeman is very popular. He was the star in Invictus. Did you
Yeah,
watch?
yeah, yeah. I did see
Yes,
Invictus.
which is
Yeah,
about the life of Nelson Mandela. And he
around the game of
was
soccer, coincidentally.
they bring up his name. I'm talking about Morgan Freeman. And for a society that is obviously free now in South Africa, in addition to the real hero here, Nelson Mandela, the movie version is forever alive. You know, they bring it up.
Yeah.
I stayed in a hotel where Nelson Mandela stayed right after he was liberated from Robben Island. The story goes that he stayed in that hotel in order to finish writing his memoir, his book, and I had the honor of sitting at his desk, and I'll send you the photograph.
That's fantastic. I mean, what a
Yeah,
legend.
it's
What
a
a
good,
legendary individual.
good, yeah, absolutely. But not only for South Africans, but
Yeah.
for everybody.
For the world. For the world. I mean,
Yes.
I try to, I don't know if this is a great analogy, but I try to tell people imagine if Martin Luther King went to jail, survived, and then led the civil rights movement all throughout being in jail for 30 years, and then came out and became the president. Are you
And
kidding me? Nelson
and
Mandela,
and
it's really absurd.
he became a unifier and not a revenge seeker. I mean, that shows greatness to the core.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's tough. I mean, I don't think I could go a year of being imprisoned without, wanting to not turn the other cheek anymore once I had the
exactly,
opportunity. Maybe I
exactly.
even see it as a way of getting rid of evil in the world. Clearly, they've done me wrong, and I'll get rid of that. Or at least I'll imprison them for being wrong to me. But over the long term, in society, they can't tell the difference, and it just looks like
That's
political
that,
opponents
that's
imprisoning each other.
that's the truth. That's the truth. That's the
Yeah,
truth. So
I
that's
couldn't do that. 30
greatness.
years? That's my whole life. I could, what? Yeah, I can't
Well,
imagine being able
it
to.
was his. It was he was deprived of his youth and middle age. You know.
Yeah, maybe that can transition us into constructal law,
Yeah.
which is one of the major reasons why you've won so many of these prestigious awards. It's such a beautifully designed idea about how reality functions. Um, to give the sentence, for a flow system to persist, which means to live, it must evolve with freedom such that it provides greater access. What does that mean? Now, what is constructal law, and how do you sum that up?
Any a law of nature is like this one is a compact statement that summarizes a distinct phenomenon. A distinct phenomenon is a one name for observations that repeat themselves the same way uh, innumerable times, say in the billions.
Hmm.
So the history of science is that uh, gravitational fall, things fall down. That is a phenomenon. That is one phenomenon. And that one, from the mind of Galileo Galilei, uh, became Galilei's law of gravitational fall. Exactly, exactly, yes.
There it is.
Simple as that. Hey,
That's it.
after
There it
that,
is.
yeah, after that. By the way, no. Here's the joke. Be,
Yeah.
before Galileo Galilei, humanity did just fine, not knowing that law and not asking anything about phenomenon or anything like this. But it took one person. This person was actually a normal guy, a regular guy. I don't know what kind of wine he was drinking. It
Yeah.
took it took one person to say, wait a minute, here's how to simplify the discussion going forward. Here's a phenomenon, and here's the compact statement of the observation, meaning the billion number of observations, and that became a law. Not long after him, Newton said it more generally, and that gave birth to basically analytical mechanics. Mechanics is as old as the Greeks. The world is full of these very few sticks in the mud who say, wait a minute, I can say it more simply, okay? And I like to joke that this is how the book of physics improves, but it remains a thin book. because in it there are just the laws, not all the measurements, and certainly there are no opinions there. It's just ideas that have proven to be correct, at least up to that point, the point of publication on the book. But every idea is asking to be questioned, to be tested, to be replaced by a better idea. So this law that you recited is one of those. I had a very similar aha. I said, wait a minute. In thermodynamics, which is my specialty, that was what I was doing the first half of my career. I still teach that, but when it comes to research, in thermodynamics, the science of power, which is really, as the name thermodynamics suggests, the science is about heating, and dynamics means power or force. It's about heating and then movement. It's about setting something in motion because of the fire in the belly. You see, hint, hint. It's not only about the locomotive, it's about the animal.
Yeah.
The animal is a vehicle, okay, with everything in it, like the avionics on the airplane, the brain, the animal is much more complicated than your automobile. From a distance, it's all about the fuel or food, and then the movement of that body on the landscape. And it occurred to me that this very simple thermodynamics also has evolution, because that thing that I was just describing, animal or vehicle, does not stay the same. It is a better and better vehicle, or if you believe Darwin, a better survivor over millions of years. And all of that is a phenomenon. So the distinct phenomenon is design in nature, which really means evolution. And what is the compact statement about that? And I scratched my head quite a bit before I wrote something that's non-denominational, using words such as access or to persist in time. And I had to insert translations, because to persist in time means to live, because the opposite means dead. It's called the dead state in thermodynamics, where nothing flows, nothing moves, nothing changes. So if my peers accept the dead state, they should accept the life state. And sure enough, 15 years after Adrian, now in physics people talk about live matter, meaning live material, live systems. They talk about these things. And I'm amused, maybe not, that they don't mention the constructor law when they talk like this.
Yeah.
There's something else in the statement that you read, something that was omitted from what you're reading, which is that in the beginning, the beginning of the statement is for a finite size flow system to persist in time, which means to live. Anyway, your version is abbreviated. The word finite size, what is there originally, to draw attention to the, there we go, very good. To draw attention to the fact that this is not a subparticle or something invisible. It's the opposite. It's about a macroscopic, a thing with size.
Yeah.
A thing with size, something that you can draw. You see, something that doesn't lie to you. And this is called holism. Holism, the opposite of reductionism. If you look at the news that people make in physics today, it's all about, it's kind of funny, very, very smaller and smaller things,
Yeah.
which are all invisible, and
course.
bigger and bigger things, this cosmology thing, which are also invisible, because not everybody has access to a telescope on some spaceship, okay? So, and I am a lot more modest than that. I'm very, very happy with things that I can see and sketch and talk about and photograph and joke about, uh, um, or even taste in the restaurant. That if I'm that curious, uh, they're the essence of what keeps us going. Is the thing that we can touch. Okay, the things that we can touch. Um, that is where the
The
truth.
tangible.
Yeah, correct. By the way, that's a very good thing you bring out, tangible, because the same attitude in physics is to poo-poo things that are intangible. Intangible. Yeah, I'm building up to the joke here. And even though they're the ones pushing reductionism, these sub-particles, they're intangible, and also the universe or the other universes. I mean, show me a picture of these things. They don't show you anything. So but they're against the intangibles, such as in human behavior. Uh, why some things uh, seem to us as that they are beautiful or attractive.
Mm.
Yeah, that's an intangible. Why things tend to, is in the statement of the constructor law, evolve toward access, which really means freedom. Freedom. Why that? Well, that's intangible. You see, human urges are intangible, even though every speaker feels these urges. Every
Yeah.
speaker. And why everybody wants power. Yeah, power from what's from for example, to charge his electric vehicle. Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, well, for the same reason that in antiquity people they needed farm animals. That means power. Uh, and all the way to the steam engine. Uh, Everybody wanted power. Power. And I'll tell you something, as a pat on the back of mechanical engineers, it was because of the power from the steam engine. That's 200 years ago. That is what led to the end of slavery. I mean, people had this idea of ending slavery since Alexander the Great. But they didn't do it, okay? They didn't do it. But then when power became cheap,
Yep.
they wised up and did the right thing. Uh, it took effort in all these countries, not just the U.S., but it was because of the arrival of power from fire. In the 1800s, Britain became heads and shoulders the wealthiest country on the planet because of steam power. And then the rest is history. In the 20th century, the U.S. without this country, Europe would have self-destructed twice. The two world wars were suicidal from no matter what direction you looked at it. Those people there, they have grievances that date back to even before the Middle Ages that they want to resolve through murder.
Mm.
Um, and without the U.S., those would have been catastrophic. You see them in play now in Ukraine. Um, it's hard to believe that these things are still happening, but they. So I'm rooting for wisdom out of the minds of these newborns who will grow up to surprise us with their individuality. I come back to the Cassius Clay, later Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
who was an individual.
Yeah.
He was not copying anybody. That's a big deal.
Yeah. That's not nothing.
He was a one of a kind.
And you feel like most people live as carbon copies. They don't become individuals.
Well, even carbon copy is not that bad, but the ones who never lift their heads out of the swamp, those are the ones who will never be recognized for any idea. So I teach this. I teach my students, meaning in my lectures, the importance of being a free person, an individual, self-standing, erect, impossible to corrupt, okay? Or to impossible to indoctrinate because you have your own school or education of your own, meaning it is your own. You accumulated that along the way by walking through the to the best halls available in the world, which again happen to be primarily in America. We're taking America for granted because she is so amazing, but there's so. This is why people are coming here, man.
Yeah.
They're coming here not because they're stupid. They're coming here because they know which end is up. That's to the credit of those who were here before us, you know, who really built everything here. Everything. I'm not talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about everything. The laws, the behavior, the obviously the institutions. Everything that I just mentioned has unsurpassed staying power because it is, okay, broadly speaking, very good.
Broadly speaking.
Yeah, broadly
I
speaking.
mean, and that's maybe you can bring that back to the nation as a living system that survives by providing access, providing freedom, right? I mean, that's sort of
Correct.
the way that this law becomes, so pervasive is the idea that not only can you, relate it to a lung or a river basin, you can also relate it to an individual and a nation state, right? And
Correct.
so,
Everything is about having the ability to change, okay?
yeah,
Uh, yeah, the ability to change. Rigidity means death. Um, Creativity on the go is life, and also I come back to what I was saying about that I teach my students. You should question everything you hear. Question everything you hear. Um, when you question, you discover that you're inserting yourself in the game or in that particular topic, and unwittingly you come up with ideas of your own. You know, first you ask yourself, how would I do this thing that you've been listening to, and then you discover that you actually have an answer to how you would do it. You know, or or what might be needed to solve this problem. It's all about having fun with yourself in your life as an individual, as opposed to being dormant and a couch potato. Uh, Avoid that. This is the essence of good education: is when you remember your own schooling. I see that you went to Michigan. In a good school, the good professor encourages people to connect the new that they hear with the old with which they came from home or from the dormitory, and and it's up to them. It's up to them to make the connection. I tell my students not to come and watch movies on their iPhone or, as many professors today teach with videos and with slides on the computer big screen in the classroom. All that is toxic. It is against education. I tell them to take down their own notes. In other words, to construct, to write, and edit their own written version of the lecture, meaning their notes is their book about what they witnessed. And I tell them to start. This is lecture number 3. This is today's date is September 11. You know, and write it all down. And your handwriting is in fact your signature that this thing is yours, because what you write with by hand, Andre, came from your brain. It came from your brain. It came to your arm. It had to you connect mind to hand coordination in front of that expression. Well,
Oh yeah.
that requires not just thinking. That requires animal design, and it is all yours. I'm not doing it for you. And this is why people would teach with videos and with slides, and meaning they don't do any writing with a chalk on the blackboard. In my opinion, are are victimizing the student.
By using the videos, by giving them this thing to lean on, instead of making the student translate it into their own words, which is almost translating it to your own language, your own personal language.
Correct. Into their own writing, the writing and making sketches on their notebook, their own. This is, well, obviously, this is the way I was raised, okay? Back then, there were no movies to watch, okay, in the classroom. Meaning that the teacher was, yes, working a lot harder than the teacher today, all right? How is that?
Yeah.
In fact, here's how the damage is done. You know, this so-called new technology of teaching makes it easy for the teacher and toxic for the meaning for the giver and toxic for the receiver. All right, because neither is working. The teacher clicks some buttons. Quite often the video has its own voice, and the student in the classroom behaves, meaning stationary, frozen, as if he came to the cinema, you know, to watch
Yes.
movies. No, education is not entertainment. Education is exactly what happens on the during training in basketball. It's hard work, and it's all up to you to practice with that ball nonstop, to do it 100 times, and then do something else 100 times, and then go back to doing the first thing 100 times. It's called dexterity. It's students today do not write by hand anymore. What they write is really ugly. They cannot make a sketch. These are students of engineering. Yes, can you imagine that? These are people who are supposed to be designing the new whatever contrivances of the new machines, whatever. Never mind. The point is that imagination is about eventually making a sketch on paper to show the technician or the machinist what to build. If you cannot communicate graphically with your own hand, you see, hand waving doesn't work. You have to do it because pictures don't lie. If you cannot do that, you're basically a phony. And a lot of what's going on in education today is shallower than shallow.
Wow. Seems like what I got from that first part was you essentially have two passive entities working in conjunction to not learn anything, to not do anything. The teacher's passively putting on this video, they're not really actively engaging, and then the student is just passively watching this video. They're not actively engaging and conforming that material in a way in their own words so that they can walk away with their understanding of the material.
Yeah, or another way to describe the same 1-2 punch, laziness galore, laziness on both sides, or pretending on both sides, from the teacher and from the student. You know, they might as well not show up. In fact, this is what was going on during the pandemic. Neither was present, so that was the worst. Let's call it the unmasking of the crime, because back then you saw first of all the top-down education, which goes on when you go to the movie. When you just watch a movie, it's top-down. Nobody can question what those actors are doing on the screen. Well, it was the same way during the lectures I witnessed during the pandemic. They showed whatever, Zoom, There was only one speaker. There was, of course, no blackboard. There was nobody was taking notes, and everybody was probably doing something else. Writing down their list of grocery shopping or something, waiting for the hour to be over. All of this, Andre, especially in this very wealthy society, all of that pretending is being paid handsomely by the tuition that the students pay, or their parents are paying.
And eventually that's, I mean, it's going to come to bear. You can't cheat the system. You can't cheat the game. The lack of knowledge that you have will eventually come out the other end as a lack of output, a lack of, societal ingenuity, less flow, more pain, more suffering.
Exactly, because okay, it's just like a disease. Not working is attractive. If you get rewarded for not doing, why should you be doing? But I'm an optimist. The good news is that mothers keep giving birth to infants, and you have no idea how creative some of these babies grow up to be. Creative, independent, able to convince others that there's a better idea. And that is why in a free society like here in America, it is very, very important to maintain a sense of optimism, you see, because stupidity has its limits, as does laziness or fakery or pretension. Soon enough, as I said earlier, even those at the top of this kind of charade will want the results, results. Otherwise, the locomotive runs out of steam. Remember, you're too young to remember, there was a great commercial in the 70s, "Where is the beef?" You've heard the expression? There was this old...
Yeah.
Where is
Where's the
the
beef?
beef?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen this. I think they
Yeah,
brought it back
results.
later.
Results, like, yeah. Don't give me verbiage. Where's the meat between the hamburger buns? Um, um,
Yeah. Once you're eating air for long enough, you'll get hungry. You'll rebel. You'll want results. You'll want something
Absolutely.
that's substantive.
Incidentally, that was about politics. That was about voting. The infant who grows up to be an individual, meaning with his or her own mind and thirst to live, okay, doesn't need any beef. It's inside the individual, this urge to do something. For example, you with your show, that's your idea. You're obviously happy as you do it. You, uh, I'm sure it was not handed down to you from, say, a rich parent or anything like that. I mean, same in my case. The point is, thank God, mothers keep giving birth to babies, and that is how a free society remains free.
Do you fear about the uh, American society remaining free in this?
Yes, it has this like any society. In fact, animal society is the same way. It is constantly renewing itself, constantly. That is, if you pay attention, you see this. It's one reason my wife and I go to Africa every summer, every summer, and we spend time
Yeah.
in the bush, and pay attention. Obviously, we're with local people there. Um, they all speak Shangan, the language of Northeast South Africa, also Mozambique, and southern Zimbabwe, and Swaziland. They remind me of growing up on the street. They talk common sense, man, common sense. If you learn how animals live, and obviously they all thrive, that's a lot better than surviving. Um, and they thrive together in harmony. Uh, some people call it exploitation, because you see the predators are fewer, the impala are a lot more numerous. No, 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 no. It's actually a balance of uh, one group among very many, and you get the idea of constant renewal, of harmony, of in biology is called stasis. Stasis, the fact that yes, things are changing all the time, but they're staying the same. Um, and in my own say on my own soul, there's a every time I go a new layer of confidence and optimism and let's call it a good feeling about the future of the planet. Uh,
Mm.
yes, animal life. We're just one example. Obviously, the most powerful really means the one moving the most. There we go. Yeah, this is correct. Very good, very good, very good. You've done your homework. In the background, there's a pride of lions eating it's called Heemsbok in Afrikaans. It's oryx, an antelope, Um, and
Yeah, I mean, here you are drinking
yeah,
wine while lions are feeding on an antelope. How close are you? Are you like 20 yards? Like, this looks like
yeah, they
about
don't
20
give a
yards.
damn about me. They are interested in feeding their family, And
Is it, you've been closer to lions? This is pretty close. I don't know if I could
no,
get this close to lions who are
it's a bit
hungry and eating.
blurry because the this guide that was with us had a relatively poor iPhone, but that's the
Mm.
yes, that is what you see, and you see it everywhere. You look at insects and birds, lots of birds,
Wow.
fish. In fact, I started writing about design in nature when I was in this environment in South Africa. South Africa historically has let's call it culture and economy of protecting the wild, and paying for it with tourism. I'm a tourist masquerading as a scientist. Um, yes, that's right. And the locals are living on this territory. That is why they are the guides, because they've been raised in the company of this fauna. Uh, they know everything about what's living on that land, all the intricacies and relationships, and for that matter, how safe it was. If you really understand uh, life, life is safe if you understand the neighbor. If you don't understand the neighbor kills you. Uh,
Mm.
in this case, the animal.
And so going to Africa every year into the bush, into the heart of all of this, gives you a sense of that renewal every time you go.
Yes, that's right. I spoke of good for the soul. Good for the soul. By the way, I'm going to Africa for another reason, which is not tourism, is
Hmm.
to teach, to make a contribution. I've been doing this since 1986, actually, both in Southern Africa and also in West Africa, in the poorest country called the Burkina Faso. Um, and which is French speaking. That's something I can do. The point is that I think that, and I'm telling my colleagues without any success, that um, Americans should really take an interest in Africa. We have 0 students from Africa here at Duke.
Wow.
I mean, we have African Americans, very few,
Right,
but
right.
the
From Africa.
university, but from Africa, no. There's
Wow.
a organized. It's part of the whatever. I don't know who invented the objectives here of recruiting students from mainland China and from India. And when you do that, you spread the impression that the only smart students come from that direction. Um, I disagree with that. I vehemently disagree. You find students of all kinds everywhere, and especially if you want to find students who are determined, it means hungry to achieve, you find them in the less affluent countries.
Mm.
Yes, and okay, Adrian. In fact, my wife told me this. We need to go to Africa.
Wow.
My wife. Yes, my wife has a PhD from Berkeley, so she she has known much earlier than Adrian which end is up. And
Yeah.
yes,
It's
so
good to have a guide like that around.
so in my career, Africa is and remains very, very important. Um, and the African universities have been very kind in the sense that they recognize what I do. I have 2 honorary doctorates from African countries, from African universities. I wish my colleagues would listen to wives like my wife to tell them which end is up. I got news for you. You follow sports,
they need
right?
that.
You follow, you know what? Yeah, you look at
I do.
all the football leagues in Europe are now focused on attracting talent from Africa. They are doing today what the NBA discovered naturally from the 50s. Okay, okay. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, universities in the UK and France are not exactly full, but they have plenty of students. I'm talking about the doctoral students from African countries, not America, not America. Some would say that that's because these are former colonial powers. You know, they have, meaning the universities in Africa consider themselves connected with French universities and British universities. Well, I don't think it's that because the student would go anywhere where it is a good university, such as Germany or obviously America or Canada, except that that student is not welcome in places the ones that I complain about, such as the United States. I think I don't
Yeah.
know.
Why?
I
Why
don't
is there
know.
such a slim?
This is not about foreign aid here. It's about one individual, meaning an American professor who is actually, by world standards, affluent, can buy a plane ticket without worrying about it. Um, it's about one individual lifting a finger and making a big difference in the life of a young person who, without that small input, would have no access, to the world of ideas and influence and impact and the uplifting of his own country.
So have you? I mean, have you been able to do that? Are you that
Yeah,
individual
in
for
my own
people?
obviously modest way. That's why I speak of good for the soul. I feel very good about my life, that I'm not,
Yeah.
stuck in a routine that never changes. Every life is actually eventually a routine, but in my case, um, making an effort in poor countries uh, is um, is a source of source of satisfaction. And my I did bring an African student to Duke from Nigeria. I laugh. He was the last PhD student from Africa that I've seen here, and I brought him. And wait a minute. So
Wow.
now this guy is a big professor at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. And what does he do at the University of Cape Town? This is a top university in South Africa, which means top university in Africa. Um, he brings there a lot of students from African countries. He is a magnet or a sink into which this flow of let's call it interest is arriving, and I'm very proud of him.
Mm.
I'm very proud of him because he does now at the scale of the continent what I think would be good for the globe. Okay.
Eventually, it wasn't the basketball, but a scholarship based on mathematics,
Yeah, right.
right? That
Because
brought you
yeah,
to the United States. That
Andre,
the
yeah,
access
yeah,
of knowledge.
correct. Yeah, because attached to the street in Romania, it was a very good school, very good school, where all the subjects were taught uh, seriously and correctly and deeply. I'm talking about history, geography, mathematics, physics, chemistry, all these things, including graphic arts and music and everything. The name for this is European education. It was not Romanian or Hungarian or something like that preaching nationalism. It was a um, basically the civilization that was being taught to us from east to west, from Japan all the way to the United States. Um, what happened, for example, in the Middle Ages, here, during a whole year. And then the next year, the same thing again, at a somewhat deeper level of detail. And so that's how I got the idea that the world is evolving, that it is a movie. I didn't see
Mm.
this at the movies. I saw this in my mind while in a very, very good school. Back then, uh, European education was that way. And of course, foreign languages, plural, not one, but several. In my case, we're being taught, in addition, of course, to the maternal language, the Russian was required uh, in in the 50s and the 60s, and then right after I left, it was not required anymore because even the communists got sick of the Russians. Uh, I, they here's something for your audience. Uh,
Okay.
uh, Activism is okay, meaning as the flavor of the day, but it does have a finite life. Soon enough, even the chief activists are waking up to the idea that they need results, not
Mm.
slogans.
Yeah.
And then they're the ones who change the system. The very activists. It happened in every Eastern European country in 1989. The ones who opened the door to freedom were the communist chieftains, who had gotten tired of it. Uh, that's important to keep in mind. Uh, the, don't kill your leaders. They'll wake up. They'll wake up to what's needed. Uh,
They'll get tired of it as well.
yes, and they have the ability to make the change. If
Yeah.
it is to be a peaceful change. Otherwise, you end up with a bloody revolution, as it happened in Romania in '89. But that was a singularity. All the other satellites walked away from communism peacefully, including the wise leadership at the top.
Hmm.
They washed their hands of, in fact, their own regime. By the way, it wasn't their regime; it had been imposed by the Soviet army. That's the birth of communism in history. Uh,
So I mean,
what-
speaking of, I was like, okay.
Go ahead.
Well, speaking of, politics, political change, and how that works inside of your greater work. This image, to some degree, was leveraged by you. You predicted in 2016 in July that Donald Trump was going to win. No one, the polls, no one really thought that was a real possibility that Donald Trump was going to win. You predicted with confidence, based on your theories of the world, that Donald Trump was going to win the 2016 election. Maybe you can firstly explain how you did that, and then secondly, tell us who's going to win the 2024 United States presidential election.
I tell you, this story you bring up, it was 100% spontaneous. One of my colleagues there, who is a professor of philosophy, decided to interview me about my new book called The Physics of Life, and particularly about a chapter there. In that book, every chapter is a theory, a self-standing theory. Chapter 7, this is one, that's right. Chapter 8, sorry, which was actually an appendix to Chapter 7, which is about the spreading of ideas. And for an idea to spread, it has to be new, you see. Not only good, but an idea is by definition a new mental viewing. So if the idea is new, then it spreads. And even spreaders of old ideas continue to thrive by coming up with new ideas, you see. That is what this lower graph shows. The old spreader is capital A, and the same person with a new idea is A prime, and this person continues to spread better or farther than the brand new idea called B, you see. And so the philosopher was asking me about this, and he said that, given this, what do you predict will happen in November? And I think, well, according to the drawing, it's pretty obvious that Trump will win, because back then Hillary Clinton was not saying anything new. Maybe people watch that videotape, because today both Trump and Harris are in fact doing their best to say new things, not old things. And did you notice, even in the debate, it was all about new stuff. It's not about. I mean, of course, weeks ago they were talking about what they've done and how good it was, both of them. Now it's about new things. So that's the trick. Whoever does this game of spreading new ideas more effectively will win, because right now, from what I read, they are neck and neck. Another thing here is I have never spoken about my political taste. Years ago, 20 years ago, G.W. Bush era, I decided that enough is enough, and I became not affiliated with anything. Okay, that's one thing.
Independent?
That's one title, but I think my title here at the government of Durham, North Carolina, I'm unaffiliated. And by the way, it's an excellent idea. I get news from all directions, and yes, and I don't spend much time reading, but I'm exposed to everything. I wrote about this in my subsequent book, Freedom and Evolution, in the year 2020. I'm actually much better off knowing everything that happens from every message, meaning from one direction. I get things that of two kinds. They're smart or stupid, or serious or laughable. In other words, given all these directions that are available, I'm saturated with humor, or with confidence that out there in the world, there are a lot of dumb people, but also a lot of smart people. And in other words, good ideas uh, are the newborn. The newborn, what this infant will do in life cannot be predicted before that individual is raised and educated and whatever. Use your imagination. So the ideas that come from people cannot be predicted. However, the fact that some ideas are more attractive than others becomes apparent early, and this attraction or the gathering of a following behind an idea is this phenomenon that I was sketching with those curves. It's called the spreading phenomenon. And as of today, I think the reason that the race is neck and neck is because the two sides are in fact kicking, beating the same ping pong ball. They're very similar. This is actually a technique of staying in the game, just like in basketball. You want to be a better player, look carefully at how Michael Jordan plays and try to play that way. That is so obvious that that is the way to succeed. You watch what the winner does, and and apply that sort of coat of paint on your own behavior. That is if you are smart. That is if your advisors are smart. Otherwise, you are basically, what's the word? Buying your own material. It's just like a dictator who does not, who the only advice he gets are from people who agree with him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good luck.
yeah, and that is one reason why every dictatorship fails.
So maybe we can hop on to a topic
Yeah,
that we both enjoy quite a bit, which is basketball.
very
And
good.
you can talk about how your theories apply to basketball in settling an ongoing debate that's destroyed communities and destroyed friendships. Uh, who is the greatest NBA player of all time? And so maybe you can use your theories to help come to that conclusion of who really belongs as the number one on that list.
Uh, this question is always a la mode because the new questioner, the young questioner such as yourself, uh, has his own idols in mind, and the idols change from one decade to the next. I have several answers to the question. When I was a player, this is in the Soviet bloc, it was pretty obvious that the best player was Bill Russell. Okay,
Oh, there he
yeah.
is.
Back then, the Celtics were winning everything. All right, and who was the everything all the way to player coach?
Player
Bill,
coach.
Bill,
People
yeah,
forget that about Bill. He
yeah,
was a player coach.
yes,
How do you
yes.
even do that? You're calling timeouts from the like what?
He
That's so
did.
crazy.
He
to me.
did everything. Yeah, but that was in his final years. But before that, he was everything. In many ways, also a very good speaker. And in the 19, I think it was 1964 or 65, 60, I think it was 64. The NBA All Stars toured Eastern Europe. Um, that was the beginning of détente back then. And the first country where they played was Romania. And my generation, we got to see these amazing athletes. I would put next to him or immediately after him Oscar Robertson. Yeah.
The big O.
Oh, yes. And I saw him play, by the way, because
You,
when I came to America in February '69, both were still playing.
Wow.
Oscar Robertson, very very special and uh, built like the statue of a Greek god.
Wow.
You have seen this amazing athlete, jumping as big as the house. Uh, yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
those are
So I mean, so
tho-
Oscar Robinson, Bill Russell, you're
yeah,
going classic. When you were there, those were the
yeah.
people.
So
It was very obvious, right? That
yeah, it was
these were the
obvious,
guys.
hands down, hands down. Listen, so that is the answer from back then. Then you move to the late 70s, and then throughout the 80s, you have obviously, I think I'm biased here with Michael Jordan, who is a from another planet. Um, Larry Bird would be also something very unusual. Um, I liked a lot Charles Barkley, by the way.
Charles, Sir
Yes,
Charles.
yes, yeah.
So I mean,
And,
maybe you can talk about because I thought you were going to break it down based on flow dynamics, how there are
oh,
flows in the game, the
yeah,
way that it's being blocked off by the
yeah,
opponent, how the way that
yeah.
access to the cup is
Good,
a
good, good, good.
reflection of the flow
Okay,
theory
fine.
and how that might define Steph Curry as the best player of all time. I figured that's where you're going to go.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
that's talking about the present. We didn't get as close to your generation. Sure, the game is in fact the same as it ever was. It's about creating access to this ball from the area to the point. The flow of the ball is through channels. You don't see them, but the channels are physically uh, constructed or built out of the players that move, and the ones with the ball, meaning the offense, are opening the channels. The defense is constantly trying to close the channels. But during every phase of the game, the ball makes progress. Rarely, in soccer, rarely, in basketball, frequently, it makes it all the way through the hoop. Um, and that's why you see that the flow itself is hierarchical, meaning the channels form a tree, and the tree is the branches of the tree are flailing in the wind, because of all this movement of the players. Um, that You see the players, but you don't see the cracks on the floor. That meaning the spacings, uh, the channels. You don't see them. But as a player, if you really pay attention to the game and also to yourself, uh, the coach doesn't explain it the way I explain it, but as a player, you feel the ease of the ball when you have a teammate that knows how to pass, or a teammate. It mentioned Steve Curry, who knows how to throw a long pass, uh, and that is a big channel instantly. Um, and you feel freedom when you're the recipient of the ball on the counter attack, uh, and that's so. See, the language of access uh, comes 100% from sports.
yeah.
Uh, especially the feeling of freedom, because if you are constantly on your back foot, you don't like it very much, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so that access and freedom. I mean, I talk about or think about sometimes of great players being able to create gravity. I know you've heard the term gravity, where Shaq, they throw Shaq the ball in the paint, and he draws all these other people to him, opening up the channels more
right, right,
fluidly for his teammates. Same with Steph Curry. He's out at the half court line, drawing attention and gravity from your
correct,
team
correct, yeah.
to open up to where when I pass to you, you have a little bit more access to open
So
channels because I've created space between you and
shows
your
you,
defender who's
yeah,
blocking
yeah,
that
correct,
path,
yeah.
right?
You speak like a player. Yes,
Well, I
I
did play
totally.
basketball. I didn't
There
box,
you
but I
go.
did play
Yeah.
basketball.
Exactly. The good player is a lot more than a good scorer. A good player is affecting those channels simply by being present, and the defense is always unsure of what this person will do. That's number one, and because it's not that confident, the defense then commits the stupidity of being attracted by this player, even though eventually he passes the ball to the open teammate. You know, so it's all wonderful. Number one, for everybody on both sides of the ball, because the game keeps moving on. But in my life, this story that we just told is it makes me understand really well how society functions. Society is the same thing, much more complicated. There's an immense number of ball games on every time. For example, the ball game of going to high school, the ball game of going to the university, the ball game of finding a job, the one of finding a wife, all these things that are in front of you, and you have to make decisions for yourself, which really mean for yourself to liberate the channels in front of you, to make them wider and longer and safer for you in your life. Your life is a movement. Your life is, and you belong to a flow system called society, in which you're much better off if you keep moving, as opposed to being lost in some side branch of a really, really big river. Even that is not that bad. If you get lost in a side pocket, meaning a lake that used to be flowing, but now it is not flowing anymore, you'll die at the bottom of that silt, you know. All these things, complicated as they are as they may be in sociology, are easy to watch in sports, but they're even better for the player to watch, because the player actually feels freedom, feels opportunity. You bring up the word access. It speaks of the difference between the open door and the closed door. It's called dichotomy. It's like the difference between number one and number two at the optometrist, you know. And yes, I prefer open door, no closed door. Unless, of course, there's an enemy trying to come through the door, then I prefer the closed door, not the open door. Listen, I think we ran out of time, okay?
Yeah, fantastic conversation. Yes.
Yeah, so I owe you a photograph, and you can ask me anything you want, because I really like talking to you, okay? Especially now that you speak basketball. I like that.
love the game, man. I'm a point guard, so I got to hook up the teammates. Yeah, really thanks for joining us. I know we've been trying to make it happen for a little while. We made it happen, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And, of course, to all the amazing insights and work, and just the diligence and importantly, the excellence that you've produced for humanity.
Well, there we go. I'll stay in touch with you, especially if new ideas happen. I will have a new book next year. I'll let you know about it.
Okay.
In any case, good luck to you, first of all, and then I wish every single listener to question and then laugh after that.
Love that. That's
Take
great.
care.